If you do business anywhere in the European Union, you need to pay attention. There's a whole new set of rules in town called the NIS 2 Directive, and believe me, it is a massive overhaul of cybersecurity law. We're not just talking about a minor IT update here. This is a fundamental shift that puts cybersecurity right at the top in the boardroom.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the new rules and why they even exist. Then, the big one. Does this actually affect you? After that, we'll get into your cybersecurity to-do list, what happens when things go wrong, and finally, the pretty steep price of non-compliance.
All right, first up, the EU's new cyber rules. So why the big change? Well, to put it simply, the digital world is completely transformed. Cyber threats are way more sophisticated now, they're everywhere, and they don't care about borders, which puts the entire EU market at risk. NIS 2 is the EU's answer. It's about building a much stronger, more unified defense.
And this one line, right from Article 1 of the directive, really gets to the heart of it. The whole goal is to get everyone on the same page, to raise the cybersecurity baseline for the entire union. The idea is to make sure there are no weak links in the chain, especially as our economies and societies rely more and more on digital systems.
Now for the million-dollar question. Does this directive actually affect you? You see, the scope of NIS 2 is so much broader than the original directive. It's pulling in a whole bunch of organizations that were never covered before, putting them right in the spotlight.
So, does it apply to your organization? Well, the answer really boils down to two things: how big your organization is, and maybe more importantly, what sector you operate in. Let's take a look at how the directive actually breaks those sectors down.
The directive splits organizations into two main buckets. You've got your essential entities, think energy, transport, the real high-stakes sectors. They're going to face much stricter, proactive supervision. Then you have important entities like postal services or manufacturing. They're under a lighter touch, what's called ex post supervision. That basically means the authorities will come knocking after something goes wrong, instead of actively monitoring them all the time.
And when you look at the list, the scope is just massive. Annex I, the essential list, covers the sectors you'd expect, like banking and healthcare. But then you look at Annex II, the important entities, and it's just as broad. We're talking everything from waste management and postal services to digital providers like online marketplaces and even search engines. A huge slice of the modern economy is now covered by these rules.
So, if you've figured out your organization is in scope, you're probably asking, okay, now what? This next section is all about your cybersecurity to-do list. This is where the directive gets really specific about what you need to do. And here it is. This might be the single most important part of the entire directive. NIS 2 makes management bodies, we're talking the C-suite, the board of directors, personally liable for breaking the rules. They now have to approve cybersecurity measures and oversee them. This is a real game changer. Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT problem, it's a core governance responsibility. The directive calls for an all-hazards approach. What does that mean? It means you have to think bigger than just firewalls and antivirus software. You have to protect your systems, sure, but you also have to actively work to prevent incidents and have a solid plan to minimize the damage when one eventually happens. And this approach has to cover everything, from the physical security of your data centers to the security of your entire supply chain. Article 21 lays out the absolute baseline of security measures you're expected to have. Now, this isn't the entire list, but it gives you a really clear picture of the fundamentals. We're talking about having written policies for risk analysis, clear procedures for handling incidents, plans for business continuity, securing your supply chain, all the way down to basic cyber hygiene and training for all your employees. These are the absolute non-negotiables. Okay, so this brings us to what is, for many, the most stressful part of the directive: incident reporting. This section covers what you have to do when things go wrong. And let me tell you, the rules are incredibly strict, and the clock starts ticking the second you know there's a problem. If your organization gets hit by what's called a significant incident, you have to kick off a multi-stage reporting process. First, you have just 24 hours from the moment you become aware of it to send an early warning to the authorities. Within 72 hours, you have to follow that up with a more detailed incident notification. And then, 1 month later, a final comprehensive report is due. It's a very tight timeline.
And that brings us to our final section, the price of getting this wrong. To make sure everyone takes these new rules seriously, NIS 2 gives national authorities some pretty powerful enforcement tools, including some, well, very significant financial penalties.
For those essential entities, any failures in risk management or reporting can lead to fines of up to 10 million euros, or 2% of your total worldwide turnover from the previous year, whichever is higher. For big global companies, that 2% can be an absolutely staggering amount of money.
And for important entities, it's not much better. They're looking at fines of up to 7 million euros, or 1.4% of worldwide turnover. Again, whichever is higher. These numbers are definitely designed to get your attention and force you to take action.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway from all of this? With personal liability for the C-suite and the potential for these massive fines, NIS2 officially makes cybersecurity a top-tier business risk. The days of just leaving it to the tech folks in the basement are well and truly over.
When you think about it, this directive basically enlists every single company it covers into a collective cybersecurity shield for all of Europe. Your organization's security is now a piece of the entire continent's security, and that really only leaves one question. Is your organization ready to hold up its part of the shield?